Well, hello, Seven White. Welcome to your second lesson. In your world, I believe this is Thursday. It's technically St. Patty's Day, so allow me to say Happy St. Patty's Day, even though I'm not Irish, though I'm Scottish, so kind of close. Today's lesson's not going to be so bad. I don't think we've had a lot of opportunity to see it before, though. So there is some new, but the reality behind it, not so bad. Please be taking proper notes. L78, Graphing Inequalities. As you can see below the title, we have what we name as our four inequalities. And you need to be very familiar with these symbols. Hopefully you're past the point of needing to think about the alligator who's eating the burgers. Undoubtedly, the very first symbol is what we call the less than symbol. The second symbol is called the greater than symbol. And you make, I already know these. Yeah, still write it down though. You know how I judge your notes. These next two you may have had less experience with, but I believe we've seen them a little bit. This third one would be called the less than or equal to. And that's just how we say it. Less than or equal to. And then the last, as you could probably guess, would have to be greater than or equal to. And today, our only goal is to learn how to graph inequalities and graph these statements. And so that's really all we're kind of talking about here, the graphing part of them. Now, I have a particular way I ask my students to graph, and I need you to follow those models, if you will. Our first statement here is x is greater than 4. And like I said, if you look at different textbooks, they'll show kind of elements of graphing. What I believe I ask for from you is the most limited amount of information that still proves you fully understand what's happening. So you are to do it the way we're talking about today. There really is no other option. So please don't do anything other than what we're going to do right now. And that'll be as long as I'm your teacher. After that, who knows what they'll do to you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do in order to graph is I want to consider certain things like the the inequality symbol, in this case clearly greater than, and this number, which I'll refer to as our identity number. And so it says x is greater than 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a number line, obviously put arrows. I'm going to make 3 tick marks, one in the middle, and that thing in the middle I will always call the identity number. And if that identity number is an integer, I'll just go up 1, which would be 5, and down 1, which would be 3. If it's something other than that, like a fraction, then you should go up, like let's say it was 5/7. Well, then you'd go up by sevenths to 6/7, or down by sevenths to 4/7. But that's a later thing. So once I've got this number line out, 3 little tick marks, I've numbered them at 4 in the middle and then correctly. Now I have to kind of consider the sign. The sign's a big part of the graphing. So the way it comes out is that this symbol, greater than or less than, they will get a certain marking, and that marking will be what I will refer to as an open circle. See how that circle is just open? We'll call that open. Now, if I get a greater than or a less than, we're going to get a shaded in circle, often referred to as a closed circle. And that's just how it works. And we'll talk about why in just a moment, but that's just the reality. If I have a greater than or less than, it's going to be an open circle. If I have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, it's going to be a closed circle. We clearly have in this situation an open circle. So directly on that number line, as is being modeled right now, you're to draw a circle, just like that, exactly as you see it. Don't make any other choices. Then I have to consider the statement. It says x is greater than 4. Well, we know on a number line that things to the right are greater, right? Things get greater and greater and greater as we go to the right, and they become lesser and lesser and lesser as they go to the left. So if it says x is greater than 4, and what I'm trying to show is all of the elements that would include that, I'm going to go from this open circle off to the, what do you think, left or right? What do you say? Left? Really? Right? Huh? Clearly they're right because it says it's greater than 4. So what I do is I just kind of darken that area. I thicken that line. I usually will kind of color in my arrow. It doesn't take me all long to do it though. It's not like I'm Picasso. But by looking at this, you can clearly see what are the solutions. Now, the open circle and the closed circle, why do they make those choices? Well, we'll talk about that in a moment when we do our next one. So here is our next one. It's x is less than or equal to -3. Now, graphing this will go much the same. I do want to set up a number line. I'm going to get 3 tick marks. I'll put -3 in the middle. Now, that is an integer, so I'll go up by 1 and down by 1. Now, be careful, though, because, negative land is a little bit backwards. So to the right would be -2, if you think about a number line. And to the left would be -4, all things that you get judged on. Then I have to consider the sign. Now we saw before that a less than or equal to is going to get me that closed circle. So I'll put a closed circle right there on that tick mark. Then it says it's less than, well, to the left then, right? Less than to the left then. So I'm going to mark darken to the left, right? Just like that. And that's my answer. And you're like, that's it? Man, that's it. They just want you to graph it. Now, later on, they're going to give you one-step inequalities, two-step, multi-step, where you'd have to kind of isolate your variable and then graph. So it'll say for inequalities, which we have an entire unit on next year, unit 4, called inequalities, where, they take us through more complex inequalities. But the graphing part of it is just what we talked about. You draw the number line, 3 tick marks, put the appropriate numbers in, the identity number in the middle, blah, blah, blah. Consider open or closed, and then left or right. Now, here's a tricky thing, though. If they asked me to graph this, now this usually would probably have occurred because of the initial inequality given to me, maybe as a multi-step, maybe variables on both sides, that in my working, my variable ended up on the right side. But if that happens, we have to be a little bit careful. Now, first of all, most of the graphing is going to be exactly the same. And draw that number line. Oh, I lost all that. Okay. And draw that number line. We're going in live. I'm going to put 3 tick marks. Un, dos, tres. My identity number goes here, going up by 1, down by 1. Open or close? Clearly open. But here's the kicker, and you have to be careful. Because when graphing, you always must read inequalities from the variable first. So what that means is I'm not going to read it left to right like normal English or normal math. Because my variable's on the right side, I have to do this. I'm going to read it from the P going this way. And if I did that, I would say not P is greater than, I'd say going to the left, I'd say P is less than 5. And then at that point, I realize, oh, it's less than. So I want to mark things that are to the left then. And I mark that up. And this is one of the major pitfalls that people fall into when the variable's on the right side. Everything else looks the same, except for that they end up graphing kind of to the right when it should be to the left. So always, always, always read your read your inequalities from the variable first. Yeah? Hey, this is a friendly, gentle reminder. This was L78, graphing inequalities. So therefore, you're expected to do homework 78, because that's how it'll work. And then obviously on the following day, posted on Google Classroom will be the key to that homework. And we'll just keep moving forward. Any issues at all, don't be afraid. Please email me. Hope you're doing well. Hunker down with that family. I've got a big puzzle I'm about to start working on, 2,000 pieces. Kind of excited about it. I like puzzles. They are puzzling. Take good care. Bye.